6:30 this morning. I want to give you an update on this young man who spent weeks on a ventilator after contracting COVID-19 back in April. Remember his family pleading for patients who have recovered from COVID-19 to donate convalescent plasma?
This is potentially one of his last hopes to get the word out, to see if there is anyone who could possibly be able to help us.
In an exclusive interview, 41 Action News anchor Ray Daniels speaks with his doctor.
And takes us along on this young man's incredible journey to recovery.
It was a celebration when family heard the news their loved one was coming home. Signs, the honk, and the excitement.
It was like they was preparing for a celebrity to come to town, you know what I'm saying?
Doctors and nurses also celebrated.
To see him come back to the hospital, get out of the car, stand up, was as hard as these days have been for some of us on the front line, it's worth it.
It's a different story from just a few months ago when 23-year-old Shaquille Avery contracted COVID-19.
I played sports, I played football, and I never felt no body aches like that.
Avery spent more than 2 months at Menorah Medical Center.
He had life-threatening COVID-19. He had severe pneumonia and required a ventilator. He had respiratory failure.
I remember, like, before I went in, and then when I woke up at that other hospital, I don't really remember much of Menorah.
But his mother and family do. Shaquille was in the hospital for 79 days.
So, 79 days, Jesus.
Nurses and staff put up a tent for his family to say hello and draw pictures because they couldn't physically be there with him.
And we're all here visiting. They got us protected from the when he had to be put on the ventilator, that was the hardest thing for me.
Willetta Avery then hears what no mother wants to hear.
On April 11th, I'll never forget, 4:30 in the morning, they call and they're telling us that he, there's nothing. Wow. So they're explaining to us that there's nothing that they can do for him. At that point, they allowed me to go up to see him. And you know they're not letting people into these hospitals. So when you hear, okay, you can come up, I mean, you pretty much know what that means, you know.
After seeing him, she asked him to do just one thing.
I need you to fight for me.
The search was on for convalescent plasma, but it wasn't easy.
We contacted all of the blood banks locally. No one had any plasma available.
Shaquille's family members used social media, hoping someone could help save Shaquille's life.
Luckily, we ended up getting a donor that came from New York City, that they were able to ship that plasma to us.
Transfusing those antibodies into Shaquille's body.
It's experimental. That was the first patient that I've given convalescent plasma to. It's been reported out for other infections, but, this was, it was our first patient.
And it worked.
To see that, he improved with it was just amazing for us.
With tears of joy from both his family and healthcare providers, it was a celebration of what he overcame, but there's also reminders of his fight.
It's definitely a scar, that reminds you of what you went through.
Shaquille's message to young adults?
You decide to step outside, no mask, no sanitizer, no care in the world. Think about whose father you're taking away from that kid. Think about whose mother you're taking away. Whose grandparents, whose daughter, whose son.
And to take this seriously.
You don't think you're invincible. I used to think that if this is serious as you take anything else, take this as serious as life, because it's that serious.
Now, the journey isn't over for Shaquille. He's still recovering. He says he's learning how to walk again, walk up the steps, and also financially. Those bills have been adding up for the nearly 80 days he was in the hospital. Now, he and his family do have a GoFundMe page set up, and we do have that available on our website at kshb.com.
Just incredible to watch, Ray. And obviously, one of the striking parts about this is his age, because so much of this continues to be, can young people be affected? Do we know how many people that are the same age as this person have been hospitalized from COVID-19?
Yeah, Taylor, Shaquille was only 23 years old when this happened. So I want you to take a look at this graphic from 4 counties in our area between the ages of 20 and 29. Johnson County, there were more than 1,500 positive cases for that age group, 10 hospitalizations and 1 death. death. In Wyandotte County, more than 1,000 cases there. 2.5% were hospitalized, also 1 death. In Jackson County, more than 780 cases with 15 hospitalizations. Thankfully, no deaths. And in Clay County, over 150 cases there and 0 deaths. Reporting live in the newsroom, Ray Daniel, 41 Action News Today.